Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sonic Music Releases, the series where I talk about officially released Sonic music from over the years. However, this time I'm taking things in a bit of a different direction. That's not to say that episodes of me talking about specific soundtracks in front of the camera won't return, but I had actually planned this video as a completely separate thing from my music releases series. It then quickly became apparent to me that everything would flow a lot better if I just merged this into that series rather than it being its own standalone thing. So what the hell am I talking about? Sonic Adventure. Love it, hate it, you probably at least think the music is pretty good. It gave us Open Your Heart, a song which I'm almost positive every Sonic fan knows pretty well. But did you know about all the specific versions of this one song? Like all 20 plus of them. Yes, there are actually that many. When I got to thinking about just how many versions there are, I thought, hey, why not make a video talking about just that? So this video is going to be a little on the longer side since it is kind of dependent on me playing at least short snippets of each version, but I've linked each one in their entirety and the order that I talk about them in the description, so if you want to go listen to a straight hour of Open Your Heart, there you go. On that note, let's begin. So we've got to start somewhere, and here's the version I'm going to be referring to as the base or standard version of the song. It's not the one that's on the most releases, but it is the most normal in terms of what the actual song is like and how it sounds in the game. It was released on Sonic Adventure's 2-disc original soundtrack Digilog Conversation, which I talked about in the first episode of Music Releases, and to my knowledge, no other release except the iTunes re-release, or quote-unquote port, in 2014 has had this exact version on it. There are no extra vocal bits at the beginning or the end, and it opens right away with the guitar riff and ends right after the last note. This might sound a little weird to describe, but just wait until I compare it to the next version. Now here's the version that's commonly referred to as the album version because it's the one that's used on just about every other CD release, first appearing on Songs with Attitude Vocal Mini Album, which predates the Digilog Conversation version. Notable differences here are that it starts and ends with the sounds of like a very heavy storm, probably to mimic the Perfect Chaos boss and for further immersion. Johnny Gioeli of Crush 40 also says the words "Open Your Heart" 2 more times towards the end, followed by a drawn-out "yeah" as the storm ends the song. This album version would later be used on the 20th anniversary edition release of the Sonic Adventure soundtrack, Crush 40's self-titled release, Sonic Heroes Triple Threat, History of Sonic Music, Sonic Team Power Play, and a whole lot more. Of course, on Digilog Conversation, along with the bass version, is the Introduction featuring Open Your Heart track. This was the version used for the opening cinematic of the game, and is essentially just another song with Open Your Heart kicking in about 3/4 into it.
Tell me now how long this will last. I'm not gonna think this way.
Now, let's talk about the versions from the game itself. Ripping the game's files on Steam, I saw that there are in fact 6 different versions inside the game alone. Most of these are just small variations used for parts that needed different timing, but I thought I should go over them anyway. The version used in the final Perfect Chaos boss fight gets rid of the opening guitar picking and only features the first verse, chorus, and guitar solo before it's set to repeat on loop. I won't play a snippet of it since it's mostly the same exact thing, but a slightly varied version of this appeared in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and the only difference is that it does include the opening guitar picking. There are 2 versions that are used for menu screens. One, known as Menu 2, is actually used for the press start screen at the very beginning of the game, and is just a 13-second instrumental mix. The file from the game known as Menu 1 is much longer at 57 seconds. It starts the same way as Menu 2 but goes on to feature the chorus, and I believe this was used for the mode select screen. It's also identical to the version you can find on YouTube, which claims to be from the Sonic Adventure Auto demo.
Can't hold on much longer, but I will never let go. I know it's one-way track. Tell me now how long.
The theme of Supersonic version is a short instrumental mix which is most prominently used in the game when Sonic transforms into Supersonic. Jingle E, also known as Jingle 5, has been speculated to be a beta invincibility theme and is never heard in the actual game. It might not sound like it at first, but it does faintly resemble Open Your Heart at a slower tempo. This next version was used in the credits of the Supersonic story. It features an extra "Alright" lyric from Johnny at the very beginning, and 2 extra Open Your Heart lyrics from him at the end, just like the Songs with Attitude version. At the beginning and end there are no storm sound effects, but at the very end there's an isolated "Yeah" from Johnny, one we previously heard on the Songs with Attitude album version, but accompanied with the storm sound effects. That's it for files from the game, and now we have an early demo of the song before it was complete. You can tell that the mixing is not final, as the drums sound like a completely different recording altogether, and the most prominent difference here is that the vocals are sung by Eizo Sakamoto, a Japanese metal singer. His take was likely a placeholder before Gio was able to record his vocals. The demo version also begins and ends with the storm sounds, but is only 2.5 minutes long. There's another demo version from the Sonic Adventure Auto Demo, in fact, which is named Tidal Jingle, and it's simply a very short 5-second instrumental of the song. Before we get into the official remixes, I want to talk about two other versions. We did finally end up getting an official instrumental of Open Your Heart, but it was not on the Anthems with Attitude CD. This was a CD put out in 2014 that featured character themes from Adventure and Adventure 2, as well as the official instrumentals of both, which was the first time Adventure vocal themes got this treatment. Both Open Your Heart as well as Live and Learn were absent from the tracklist, however. The official instrumental of Open Your Heart was never released physically, but rather on the 2014 iTunes re-release of the game's soundtrack. In 2007, Crush 40 released a Best Of album with the subtitle Supersonic Songs. There are several tracks here from past Sonic games that got new mixes, Open Your Heart being one of them. It opens with the storm sounds from the album version, but does not keep them at the very end. Johnny's Alright at the opening is present, as are the 2 extra Open Your Heart lyrics at the end, and overall the mixing in this version is different, with the vocals having a slightly altered sound and the drums sounding re-recorded. Alright, now we get to the official remixes of this song, starting with the Sonic Adventure Remix CD released in 1998. This CD featured no less than 3 remixes of Open Your Heart, one by Chris Randall and Van Christie, which was completely instrumental, one by Chris Vrenna and Mark Blasques, and one listed as Transmutator versus Razed in Black, which is often dubbed the Sonic Boom remix due to the repetition of this phrase in the remix. Sonic Pinball Party featured a number of Sonic songs remixed in the GBA sound font style, one of which was Open Your Heart. Sonic Gems collection contained an unlockable Open Your Heart remix named the MJZ remix. This is probably the most laid-back, chill version of the song you'll ever hear.
Shelter.
In 2008, a CD called True Blue, The Best of Sonic the Hedgehog, was released, which featured a good number of Sonic's most memorable songs, as well as some bonus tracks, including an all-new remix by Bentley Jones, who you might also know as Lee Brotherton, or the guy that did Dreams of an Absolution.
I got something new, not until we're through. Mixing the tricks for your kicks, Bentley Jones and Crush for a team make a fix. So relax and wait for the riff to ignite. Just open your heart, it's gonna be alright.
That CD ended up getting a sequel the next year titled True Colors, The Best of Sonic the Hedgehog Part 2, which also had some new remixes on it. One of which was a very techno-sounding remix of Open Your Heart by K-Klub.
Thunder, rain, and lightning, danger, water rising, clamor, sirens wailing. It's such a bad
Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games had a good handful of songs remixed for the Dream events, and Dream Figure Skating would use one of Open Your Heart with redone drums and a synth in place of the vocals. When Sonic fought Perfect Chaos again in Sonic Generations, it was of course accompanied by a remix, much like most of the game's soundtrack. This one, by Circuit Freak, was a much harder and somewhat darker sounding remix compared to the others. It also sounds like some of the vocals were re-recorded for the chorus. And last but not least is the new instrumental mix that was used in Sonic Runners for the Sonic Adventure event. It's basically just the official instrumental with added guitars to play to the melody of the vocals. I could only find a fan recreation of this and never actually heard it myself in the game, so let me know if this was never actually used or something. I don't know. So there you have it, a whole freaking lot of versions of this one song. I hope you enjoyed me covering them. And one little tidbit I do want to add at the very end of this. Recently, on a Sonic official stream, they had Jun Sonoe and Tomoya Otani talking about their past works, about what they've done in the past and stuff. And Jun Sonoe brought up that Open Your Heart, the one we know today, is, I think he said, the 8th or the 9th mix that he had that finally worked for him. So, I mean, you could say this about any music, but we could have had an entirely different song. In fact, we could have had 8 different versions of this one song that aren't just like different mixes or something. It could have been a completely different composition. Anyway, that's a whole freaking lot of Open Your Heart. I hope you enjoyed me talking about all the versions of this one song, and now you can be that guy when someone is talking about Open Your Heart. You can be like, well, which version are you talking about? Are you talking about Jingle E? Anyway, let me know if you want to see any more of these, the many versions of other Sonic song videos, and I will catch you in the next one. Hope you have a good day. Take care.